Good afternoon and welcome to the sixth session of the Teams as a Platform campaign. Today we're going to be talking about Power Automate. So how are you going to power up your teams with Power Automate? My name is Michel Bouman. I'm the Territory Channel Manager for Modern Work in Microsoft, which means that I focus on the modern workplace, mainly Teams. And I'm not here just by myself. Albert-Jan, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Albert-Jan. I'm working at Portiva, Dutch partner, and I'm the CTO there, meaning that I can play around with all the cool stuff in the Microsoft 365 stack.
A lot of demos today?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
definitely.
So we'll have about 10, maybe 15 minutes of slides, a lot of housekeeping. So not too many slides, and then we'll jump right in and we'll try to show some cool demos.
Sounds like a plan.
You are part of a Teams live event, which means that we have a Q&A section where you can ask questions. There are multiple ways to get your answer. One, we have a subject matter expert in the studio with us. It's Jeroen Jansen. He's going to be there to answer a lot of your questions. We're going to be answering some of your questions live during the session as well. So feel free to ask as many sessions as you can. If you would like to post anonymous questions, you can by ticking the little anonymous box, and then we will not see who you really are. Now, we're not able to send you the Q&A responses afterwards, so if you see something that you like, please make note of it. We're here to talk about Teams, and mainly Teams as a platform. You are already used to working with Teams, I'm assuming. You're used to having the one-to-one chats. You're used to collaborating in different teams through different channels. You might even use the phone system, so full calling capability straight out of Teams. But the part that we're going to talk about today is the integration of the business processes and how to automate this. Let's start with the Power Platform as the overall suite. So it contains 4 different products. The first product is Power BI, and Power BI helps you to visualize any data that you might have. So you might have a lot of data, for example, in Excel or some kind of database, and you want to visualize that for the business. That's why you use Power BI. The second one is Power Apps. And this is the ability for you to create your own applications without using too much code. So it's either low code or no code, and you'll be able to publish your own applications within no time. The last one on this slide is Power Virtual Agents, which allows you to create your own chatbots, all drag and click and go basically. And within a few minutes, you'll have created your own chatbots that you can start playing around with, either standalone or in Teams, or maybe even on a website. The part that we're going to focus on today is Power Automate, which is all about workflow automation. If we talk about automation in the modern world and you look at human beings, they're great at being creative and at strategic thinking. However, we spend most of our time on repetitive tasks and manual tasks. And I think that's a waste of intellectual property that you have in your own organization. So what we're going to try to help and solve today is to save you, even if it's a few minutes of your workday, to automate certain processes for you to really spend time on what you as a human being are most powerful at, which is being creative and strategic. If we look at the challenges in the workforce, it's I think 3 different buckets that we can look at. One, we're starting to see more and more remote workers. Obviously, we're in times of COVID, so everybody, or 65% of all people in the Netherlands, are now currently working from home. I was surprised, by the way, that number is only 65%.
Yeah, it's weird traveling here. There were actually traffic. I was like, okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's not that high. But also, if you look at the data and all of the research that's currently being conducted, also for the Netherlands, business leaders are saying, 80% of the business leaders are saying that there's no way that everybody is going to go back to the office. We're going to be working in this hybrid form, which means a lot of people will remain to be remote workers. The second one is a streamlined workforces. So we'll have higher workloads, less people and resources available, and so time is really becoming the strain on everything that we do.
Yeah.
And the last one is the higher customer demand. We talked about it in the pre-show, how we kind of expect when we place an order somewhere that we have same day or next day delivery.
Yeah, as a customer, whenever I order something, I just want to know, or I expect it to be there either today or the next day. I mean, it's like the first thing to sort by saying, okay, can you deliver tomorrow? Yeah, I want it now. There we go.
Yep. So customers are expecting higher service, higher customer service. At the same time, they're showing a decrease in satisfaction. So I think there's something to be fixed there. The 3 things that you could, or I think the biggest opportunities within your organization to automate is, one is workforce innovation. So 60% of all occupations have at least 30% activities that you can automate.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? If you look at your day, just the amount of work that you need to do, a great percentage of the things you're doing is planning meetings, replying to standard emails. So there is this whole bunch of work that you can automate in some way, not perhaps completely, but 30, 50, 60% can be automated fairly easy.
Yeah. How much time do you save, you think, on when we move more to the productivity part, right? So that's the second pillar. How much do you think you save a week because you automate stuff?
I would say that things like planning a meeting is just something that I spend, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes a day on. But by automating that completely, that's 25 minutes each week that I can save. Maybe spending 1 hour to set up my automation part, and then I'm done. Nothing to need to be to do it manually anymore. Same with things like I need to reply to a Teams message, or I need to check off a task. If I forget that, then I might be reminded somewhere at night thinking, oh crap, I forget completely that I needed to do that. Mm-hmm. By doing automation on that process, you can be reminded during business hours. So it's definitely something for me that saves or shaves up a few minutes each day. But if you do the math, then it's like an hour a week or 2 hours a week. Definitely worth doing.
Yeah, I connected Power Automation. So I created a flow in Power Automate a tool called Scheduler, which is in full control of my mailbox. Oh, not my mailbox, my calendar. It saved me 75 minutes a week.
Yeah, I completely believe that.
That's a lot of time.
And if you start counting, then each year, over 10 years, how much additional time you have to do other things, it's awesome.
Yep, I agree. And especially in these times, right, when 30% of all employees are saying we're actually experiencing more stress now because of the work from home situation. I think saving 75 minutes a week, for me, it's not going back into my work at Microsoft. For me, it's going back in well-being and self-time. And I think that's also something that we really have to consider. If we look at the slides, some of the things that we can accomplish by automating certain processes is more accurate data across the different systems, reducing human error. You see where humans need to do work, mistakes happen. I think that's human nature as well. Faster output at a lower cost, as you'll see in some of the examples, all the way up to standardizing processes and increase employee satisfaction. And employees are really starting to give back that, hey, if we work in an organization where we can spend most of our time on stuff that we actually add value with, they're tempted to stay with their employer longer. So the big question is, how do you take advantage of this opportunity? And we think the biggest opportunity there lies with democratizing automation for everyone. So all the way from the citizen developers, and I think I'm the example of that, right? I'm not as technical as you are. I do like to play around the tooling to make myself more productive and really save time on everything that I can automate. So I started creating my own apps in Power Automate, my own flows in Power Automate to make my life a whole lot easier. The second one is the pro developer. I think that's more where you come in. Right, you'll see shortly in the demos that even as a pro developer, you can put so much into your flows to really make them more advanced instead of the templates that are already available in Power Automate. And then finally, the IT admin, because governance and security is obviously a very important part in this. So the IT admin will have full control of what flows, what connectors will be allowed to use, and they'll have full governance over the different flows that are being used. And we'll show you the admin center, I think, as well.
Definitely.
In a few minutes. So, as promised, enough of the slides. Let's move over to your machine and let's see some demos.
Let's start with some demos then. So the first thing, like you pointed out, it's about citizen development. And when you start thinking about it, anyone who likes tinkering or anyone who likes playing around a little bit with technology can actually work with the whole Power Automate stack and can do all the things that you want to do. Because out of the box, there is this whole bunch of templates that will help you to get started, get acquainted by what you can achieve. So we've all seen Teams, right? And if you look at Teams, there are applications already in there that make use of Power Automate. So if you look at one of the things that's there out of the box, it's the approval part. So within Power Automate, you can do things with approvals. And there is actually an app that allows you to view approvals within Teams, that allows you to handle the approvals within Teams. But if you start thinking about other options, you can actually interact with different things within Teams. You can interact with Teams, you can interact with messages, and you can act on that. And now let's say I'm a citizen developer and I haven't done anything with Power Automate. So as soon as you go to the Power Automate interface, what you will see is that there is a bunch of top picks or a bunch of templates that you can get started with. And those templates do not require any technical expertise. It's just clicking through them and they will be set up. Now, one of the things that I, as an end user, get slightly confused by within Teams is that if we start messaging each other, sometimes I get a message and I'm not able to react directly. I'm doing something differently. So I see that message and then maybe I want to interact on that later. So I want to get a reminder, a follow-up, or it's maybe something that I need to research. So I want to do a task. I want to create a specific task. Now, what you can do is with those templates, there are actually two samples to achieve that. So there is the create a task from a message, and there is a follow-up on a message. And as soon as you select that template, I haven't done anything yet, so just select the template, and all that will do is that will bring me to a screen where there is some additional info explaining trigger a flow to remind me to follow up a message on Microsoft Teams. So that's definitely something that I think I need in this scenario. Now, as soon as I press that continue button, what actually happens is it will create that flow for me. So it pulls in the template, it will set up everything, there's nothing I need to do. So as you can see, it has been created, it has been turned on, and I'm good to go. Now, I do have that flow, so I can change it. I can say I want to change the title, or I want to do specific things with it. But as you can see, this is a out-of-the-box template, nothing fancy. All it does is it allows you to select a message. Then there is a delay, and the delay is actually coming from that selected message. And then there apparently is some JSON, some code, but I didn't write that. The template put it in, and there's nothing I need to change about it. You can if you want, so if you're not happy with the results, you can change it, but out of the box, it is available. So I haven't changed anything, I just pulled in the template and I created that flow. Now, if I go to my Teams, what I can do is I can add a new message saying demo message, or some other message. Somebody could send me that message. And what I can now do is I can press those three buttons, and there is this more actions. And here you can see that there is a new item created called follow up on a message. And as soon as I press that, something went wrong. Apparently, this is the demo effect. Let me try again. This looks better. Probably caching. So what happens is I do get a pop-up saying, when do I want to be reminded? Now, let's, for the demo of purposes, do 20 minutes. Then it probably comes in right on time. But I can press this button, and now this whole process automatically will remind me for this message in 20 minutes. And as you can see in the pop-up, I could say tomorrow or next day, next business day. So without writing a single line of code, without having to invest any time in figuring out what happens. Just by picking a simple template, in 3 clicks, I can now remind myself for any message on Teams. So if I'm working in a large organization and I'm part of multiple teams, I can now easily remind myself to chores or tasks that I need to pick up and get reminded about messages.
We get a question about this one, and it's about the piece of code that you just showed. Somebody saying, I saw some code in there. Where do I get the source code for this?
Okay, so if you go to that flow, this is what gets created out of the box. So it pulls out the template from the gallery of templates. Now, if you want to see that code yourself, you can just edit the flow. You can open the action, and here you can see that there is a recipient and there is a message. So this is the action that takes place. And if you look at this, this is something called a adaptive card. And if you go to Bing or Google and you search for adaptive cards, there are actually samples out there on how those adaptive cards should look like. So within the template, you get a default template.
No coding required.
No coding required, nothing you need to do. If you're like a pro citizen developer or more of a pro developer and you think I can do better or I can change this, you definitely can. So if I look at this, you see some text and here it says the size is large. Now, obviously I can change that to medium if I want to do medium size text. So you are free to change this, this code, but you're not required. So it's pulled in automatically, nothing on the development side that you need to do to get this to work.
Perfect.
Now, if you look at other templates, there are quite a few other templates as well. So let me go to the home page. There is another sample that I like to do, and that's the create tasks from message. It's almost the same. I can still select a message, but the difference is that it's now not just reminding me in 20 minutes or a day. It will create a task in Planner or in Tasks in Team. Now, if you select that one, you'll see that it is a slightly different experience, but I can still create it. Whoops, I pressed one too many times. Let me go back. Let me select it again, so you can actually see what happens. Because as soon as I select continue, what I'll need to do is I'll need to specify to what Planner group and what Planner ID the tasks is actually saved. So I can select my Teams Day experience. I can say, okay, I created a Planner plan called Teams Day, and I can click on create. And what it does now is it pulls in that template and configures it to work with that specific Planner plan. So if I edit this, you will see that it is almost the same. I still have the selected message, so that will work the same. But instead of a delay, it now creates a task, and it provides the title, it provides a due date, but you can also say, oh, I want to add additional colors. So here you can tweak or you can change the template that you are using, and as soon as I click on save, everything will be captured. And if I go back to my Teams experience, what I can now do on the three dots, you will see that within a few seconds, maybe a minute or so, that option will show up here as well. Because as soon as you publish that flow, there's nothing you need to do, but the system in the background automatically registers all that information within the Teams environment. And I'm going to press the show more. Nah, it's not there yet. Probably is going to take me another 30 seconds, but eventually it will show up and you will have the exact same experience just without writing any code, have that flow for you to create whatever you want to create. So whether it's a planner task, whether it's a message, or whether it's something else.
And there's a couple of questions coming in, and thanks so much for asking these questions. If you have more, please ask them. I think that's the most fun part for us during these sessions, is to answer your questions. How do I share templates with my peers?
Okay, so there are a few options, and it depends on what you try to achieve. If I go to my Power Automate, if I go to my flow, what you can do is you can share a flow with different owners. So on the right, you see your owners, and I can add additional owners. Those additional owners can then use that specific flow. But it depends on what you're trying to achieve, because creating a task from a message is something that's just for me. So if I give someone else that owner permission, then he can assign tasks for me, something that I might not want to do. So depending on what you're trying to achieve and depending on how the flow is structured, you either add additional owners, meaning they can manage that flow and they can run that flow. You can also say, I want to add run-only users who can only run that specific flow. Or you can say, I want to submit this flow as a template so that anyone can use that template to create their own instance. Now you can imagine that if you're creating tasks for yourself or reminders for yourself, that is something that is linked to your personally. That typically is something that you won't share with others. You can share the template and they can use that template to reuse that, instantiate their own experience. But as you just saw, just reusing that flow. So if I go to the template gallery and if I pick it, it's just 2 clicks. I can click on follow-up message. All I need to do is click on continue and it's there. So that's typically for personal experiences. You'll use the template gallery. If you're having a business process, that's for a department or that's for a broader range of people, then you typically use the share functionality.
Gotcha.
Other questions?
No, yeah, we have some about the governance part, but I know you're going to show that in the admin demo.
Yeah, we're going to show that in a second. So if you think about it from a end user or a citizen developer perspective, it is pretty straightforward, right? There is this whole gallery, this whole list of templates that you can use, and those templates will actually help you get up to speed. And if I go to the My Flows, and if I select New Flow, you can see that you can even start from blank. So you can figure out or design your own process without any restrictions on that. Or you can select a template. And what we just saw, the templates, that's just a highlight of most used templates. But if I search on Teams, you get all the templates where Teams are connected to or that are using Teams. And you can see that I can just scroll down, click on select more. And what is really awesome about this is that it's not just Teams, right? There are other services as well. So
and not just Microsoft services.
Yeah.
Right. So here you see on the bottom, you see Box as an example.
Yeah.
On the bottom right, you see Slack. Even posting Slack when an event starts in the Google Calendar, which is two big competitors to Microsoft. But that's stuff that's also in here.
Yeah. So the goal of this whole platform is to automate your productivity work, and that's just not tied to Microsoft only. It could be that you're doing some part of your job in Slack and you still want to automate it because, well, it makes sense to automate certain things. So all those connections, all those connectors are available for you to use. And we had a question previously about governance and around those connectors. And yes, from a governance perspective, you can even disable specific connectors. So you could say if you don't want your users to work with Box, you could disable it. So then
I would.
Yeah, that makes sense. But you cannot use the Box part. But other companies might have invested in Box, so you can still do Box and Teams integration without any problems. Now, if you start thinking about it from that citizen development perspective, there are thus a whole bunch of templates, but you can also start with a blank template. You can start building your own business process automation part. Now, we did some samples on that as well. So let's assume that I want to do something differently. And we've created that flow that automatically creates a task. But now when that task is finished, I want to send a message to Teams saying, I finished my task, I'm done with it.
Right.
So we started from blank, and what you will see is that that flow is built out of two steps or two actions. First of all, we have a trigger, and the trigger is when does this need to happen? And what we do is we do when a to-do in a specific folder is updated, we want to do something. Then there is a condition, and we only want to do this if my status is equal to completed. So when I update a to-do task and set that status to completed, then I want to post a message as the flow bot to a channel. Now what I can do is I can run a test. I can say, I'm going to test this manually. And what it will tell me is this will tell me to trigger this update a to-do in a given folder. Now I already opened this, so I can select execute demo, and you will see that here the processing starts. This is going to take a few seconds just to go through the motions, and now it says your flow ran successfully. And you can see when a to-do in a specific folder is updated, there's this green checkbox, so all's good. I can see the conditions, all's good, and apparently we posted a message to the flowbot to a channel as the flowbot. And here you can see that what I just did is I just said, hey, I finished the task, execute demo, do you agree? So it's just me making sure that whenever I check off a task, I do a message to Teams to make sure everyone is aware that this is being done. And obviously now it's hooked to to-do, but you can also hook it to Planner, or you can hook it to Todoist, whatever service you are using as an end user or as a citizen developer to capture your tasks and your to-dos in your daily work.
We got a fun question, and maybe you can do this live. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot because we did not.
We can always try.
Yeah, and I think it's a fairly easy one. So if I receive emails regularly from my team, I can use Power Automate to automatically create tasks in Planner without manually creating them. Currently, I'm using Planner and issue reporting apps.
Yeah.
Can you show it?
Yeah, sure. So let's. The first thing that I will always try to do is I will always go to my flows. And I will do new flow, and always start. That's always my first step. And I will try to search for it in the template gallery. It might be there, it might not be. So let's do email Teams.
This is a Power Automate.
Sorry.
No, Planner. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So, okay. Apparently, create a task in Planner based on an Office 3 Outlook calendar event. No, that's not going to be there. Oh, create a task in Planner when a new email arrives in a shared mailbox. It might be a shared mailbox, apparently not. Then, okay, create a Planner task for important Office 365 emails. Okay, do we want them to be important or do we want to do them for any specific mail that I receive. Now, you can do whatever you like here. There's this whole bunch of templates. Let's stick with the important one, see what happens, because as soon as I select it, you see 3 green checkboxes, so that's all good.
And that means that you're connected to the service, right? Yeah. So you have to authenticate to one of these services.
Everything is connected already, so I'm good there. So you see when an important email arrives, then do something. Now, here you can see that this is just monitoring my inbox. It will use the flag importance is high. That means that any email that has that flag importance high will be processed, and there will be a new task created. And then what it will do is it will wait for that task to be created. So there is this loop checking, is the task created? Is it finished yet? Is it finished yet? If not, it will wait 5 seconds. Then once the task is created, it will get that email body. So it will scan the email, it will translate that HTML to text, and then it will update the task details with the contents of that email. And that's not something you can do directly, so you'll need to create the task first and then set the contents of that task. And now I'm done. That's all I need to do. It's working.
Right. So the answer is yes, and it's really easy because there's a template
3 clicks
there.
away. There is a template, and if you say, okay, I want to do it for any email, you can obviously just select importance any, or if you want to do it for low. If you want to do more complex things, you can add your own conditions in here. So you could say, okay, I want to have a condition, and in the condition, I want to use the from an email, and I only want to do it for specific email. So if I receive an email from my boss, then definitely create a task for it. If it's from a peer, nah, don't create a task and just send them an email. Nah, not interested in this. So yes, it's just using the template, click on save, and you're done, or build from there and, well, add additional conditions, add additional configuration.
Okay, you just made somebody's day.
Cool.
She or he is replying saying perfect.
Cool. Now, this is...
That was fun, by the way.
I like doing live demos. That's always good. Now, this is just, let's say, citizen development. Now, from there, if you start thinking about it, there are some other scenarios as well. So you can say, okay, I want to have a daily check-in. I'm a project manager, and the project manager wants to make sure that the team is all happy and everyone is doing fine. And what I usually do is I'll do a daily reminder in Teams saying, hey, are we still happy? How is your day? How are you feeling? Are we doing fine? Right. And that's just recurrence. So you can do something with Power Automate whenever something else is happening. So whenever you're receiving an email or whenever something in Teams is happening, but you can also do a recurrence. So every single day, this will post a message to Teams saying, this is our daily check-in, everyone happy? Well, is everything okay? Now, this is running at 7 o'clock in the morning, so I'm not going to wait for that. I'm just going to do the manual test, click on test, run flow. And what happens is this will do everything for me. No need to wait till tomorrow morning. And if I go to my daily channel, you'll see that I just did my daily check-in. It's just pushed, and I'm feeling happy. The cool thing about this is because this message has been published under my name, anyone who replies to this message automatically shows up in my activity feed. So I'm aware if someone is replying to this thread. Right. Really, really cool scenario. Now, one remark here is you can automate quite a lot of things, but it has to be human as well. So don't start automating everything. It might not be a best practice to congratulate someone on their birthday with an automated message. You might want to put a little bit soul into that and try. You can do a reminder for yourself, or you can do a generic message in your team saying someone has his birthday. And then you can reply to that, but just saying congratulations might not be the best practice, so to say. Now, that's still a little bit of citizen development. You can also do some more complex flows, and you can start thinking about more complex scenarios. So let's say I'm a developer, and I want to stay up to date on what Microsoft is releasing. So any update on specific languages or specific stuff that I'm working on, I want to be aware of that. But you can imagine that Microsoft is releasing a lot of blog posts around those topics, and I might get lost in the forest and I might not see those updates. So what I did is I created a flow within Power Automate, I just scheduled it manually to show you the demo, but normally this would run every night. And what this does is this scans the Microsoft blocks, and within those Microsoft blocks, it will check if the block is about CSOM, the language that I'm working with, and if that is true, I will use an HTTP trigger to get that web page, get that blog post. This is a premium connection, so this has to do with licensing. You have to get a premium license to get this working, but I get all that detail. Then I convert that result, so I get a web page. I convert that web page to HTML. Then I do some magic to figure out where all the content is coming from. Then there are some additional checks that I need to do, and I will check every line within that blog post until I'm finished. And then finally, I will post that blog post to my Teams channel. And just to show you that it's not just magic, what I want to do is I will open this blog post. You will see that this is just a web page, and I'm going to do no thanks. I'm not really interested in the title. I'm not really interested in the introduction text saying this is the version, something has happened. I'm not interested in the image either. I don't really care. All I care about is this part, the new properties and methods. And this is what's changed for me as a developer. So I need to be aware of those things. So what happens if I go back to that flow and I will do the test scenario, I can just run it manually. I'm going to run the flow. What this does is this will pick up that blog post, and you can see that it is not just done in a second. It will take like 10 seconds to process everything, only 5 this time. But it will get that HTML, it will get that blog post, and what it then does is it posts that as a team message. So now all my developers in my teams are aware of this specific change that Microsoft just pushed out. So this is really, really interesting if you start thinking about letting people know what is happening either in your organization or with vendors that you're working with. Let me get a sip of water.
Yeah, sure. We're getting a few questions in. Most of them are around governance and security.
Let's go to that part then. So when you start thinking about governance...
We're also getting some scenarios in, by the way, but if you need help on any scenarios, we're happy to help. If you need the pro developer, go to him. If not, you can always come to me, and we're easy to find on both Twitter and LinkedIn. We'll get to that towards the end.
Definitely, definitely. So this is what I, as an end user, would see. I'm going to Flow. I do have my license assigned, so I can create flows. The first thing you can do, you can obviously disable licenses. Then no one can use Flow. So that might not be a best practice because you want to automate things. That makes sense, at least for me. Now, what you can do is there is this admin center, and the admin center is only available for admins. Makes sense. And those admins can do different things. So what they can do is they can add additional environments, so you can scope those environments and assign different permissions on those environments. And you can use those environments to capture or group specific flows. What you can also do on those environments is you can apply specific data policies. So when you really start thinking about governance perspective, you probably want to do data loss prevention. You probably either want to disable specific services. So like you said, you might want to disable box. We don't want to use box within our organization. So we just crank down, we disable box. That means that flow through their data policy, through those governance rules, can no longer interact with box. You could say, I want to disable any third-party service, and I only want to allow Microsoft services. So that's all happening in that Power Platform admin center. And within that admin center, you see that there is this environment, and that within that environment is actually available for the whole Power Platform experience. So it's just not flows. It's also Power Apps, portals, and Dynamics 365. Eventually, the Power Virtual Agents will show up in here as well. They're not there yet, but they will be coming. So what I can do here is I can see all users who are assigned to an environment. I can assign security roles, so you can even, from a governance perspective, hand out a different set of security roles, permissions to different users. And what I can do is I can assign data policies. And if I go to my new data policy, what I can do is I can specify what connectors can be used within my organization. So you can well, you can go about it in two ways. You can either say, I want to disable specific connectors within my organization, or you can say, I want to disable everything and I want only to be able to use assigned connectors. So that means that IT or governance have to sign off, you can use this specific connector, and I can search for the box one, and I can say, okay, I'm now able to use the box one, and I can say, okay, move to the business, that means the business can use it, or I can explicitly say, I'm going to block this, no one should be able to use that.
We're given a question around this, which was asked a little bit earlier, is are all connectors enabled by default?
Yeah, so by default within your, it kind of depends what your organization already did, but on a brand new tenant, all connectors are available and enabled by default.
Okay.
There are no restrictions.
Okay.
It might be a best practice to start considering whether you want to allow that or not, period.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
What's also an interesting part in this admin center is that you actually have some analytics. So what I can do is I can go to Power Automate and I can get details on what is happening in my environment. So I don't have any desktop flows in this environment, but I do have a few cloud flows. And what I can see the amount of daily runs and weekly runs and monthly runs. So this is content that's captured. It's a report that gets refreshed every night. And here you can see for anyone in your organization, so the whole organization within this specific, and here you can see what the environment is. So for this specific environment, you can see the amount of runs, you can see the amount of usage, you can see how many are created, you can see how many are shared, what the connectors are. So from a governance perspective, before turning things off or turning things on within this analytics dashboard, you can actually see really, really interesting data. So this data is actually coming from Power BI, so you can even create your own Power BI dashboard with this data. It's there for both Dataverse, Power Automate, and Power Apps. And again, Power Virtual Agents will be coming, so eventually they will show up here as well. Other questions?
No, I think you covered most of the stuff. So how do I block certain connectors is one of the questions.
Yeah.
There is something around naming conventions. So somebody's saying, how can I easily sort the different flows that I have?
Yeah, that's a bit of a tricky one because there is no, let's say there's no automatic way to apply naming conventions. So what I always do for flows that I'm creating, it's my personal preference. What I try to do is I try to add the servers that I'm working on before my flow. So I had brackets, for instance, all my Teams days demos. Wow, that's hard. They all start with team days. So that way I can always say, okay, this set of flows are around this specific set of days, this specific set of demos. Now, again, there is no requirement. Here I have one that I use for social updates. So my Goodreads feeds, I prefixed it with social. Again, this is just something I made up for me, works for me. As an organization, there is no way to enforce this, but I would recommend start thinking about this. What you can also do is if you have a paid license for Power Automate in the admin center, so here you can actually add new environments. So you can consider splitting up your organization into multiple environments because you can also apply governance rules to specific environments. Mm-hmm. You can even say I have an environment with no licensing or the freemium license that you get with Microsoft 365 E3 or E5 and say I'm going to do a specific application, a business critical application, and I'll create a specific environment for that, assign licenses to that environment, right, and then let users work there. So there are a few options, but yeah, if you want to do it per flow, then you're stuck to users if they are actually adhering to the naming conventions that you are using.
Cool, makes sense.
Definitely.
We have a question around, and I think, do you have more demos?
I have one more demo.
Go for it.
So I want to show that there are no smoke and mirrors. I just got a chat message that says, hey, flow message reminder, remind to follow up on this message. This is the message. I can do the view message and I automatically get redirected to this message.
And this is the one that we started with.
Yeah, that's definitely the one that we started with. And the cool thing about this is that there was zero code involved. And for me, it's one of the things that I install on any Teams environment that I need to work with. As soon as I get a message and I'm like, I might forget this, boom, remind me an hour, or boom, remind me next week. Then at least I get a message saying you still need to follow up on this one. There's no fancy magic in place, so if you already have replied, you would still get that reminder, but then I could be like, oh, I've already replied, there's no need for me to do anything about this.
Right. Before we go to the learning question, if someone leaves the company, can you assign a flow to another person in the admin?
Yeah. So as an administrator within the Power Platform Admin Center, you can actually go and see all the flows that are available in your organization. And what I can do is I can clear this. It's going to take a second to load, but here you can see view flows and details, manage them across your org, export assigned users and licensing. And here you can see all the owners that I have. And what I can do is I can do share, disable, and delete. So at any point in time, an administrator can go to this admin center and he can find a flow that might be running for someone who left the company already and reassign it to someone else. You can imagine that if you have a large organization, that this list might grow quite extensively. Yeah. So that's another reason to split up per environment, because those flows are captured per environment. And obviously you can search for it. There are also PowerShell commandlets if you're more an IT pro. Mm-hmm. So there are a few different options, but there is a UI available for you to assign them.
Okay, good stuff. Thanks, and thanks for the cool demos. So there's a question around how do I get to learn this stuff, and I think that brings us to one of the last slides as we go towards the closing of this session. There are 3 places to start learning. One is Microsoft Learn. So if you go to microsoft.com/learn, you'll get all kinds of different learning paths, either for super advanced or for beginner level. Also, if you go to the docs and you would like to dig in a little bit deeper, I think that's a great place to go to find overviews, tutorials, samples, etc. And the third one is if you would like to get certified, go to microsoft.com/certification. What I like about this is if you go through the certification, you follow the learning tracks on Learn, and you also get to do a bunch of hands-on demos. And that's how I learned some of this stuff, is just by doing and walking through these different steps really helps you to gain that knowledge. And what's more cool than being able to place a new badge on your LinkedIn profile saying you've achieved another PL 900 is the fundamentals, I think, another certification within the Microsoft stack. Now, if you want to take action today, I suggest you start with the simplest part. So start with the pre-built templates, then try to use some of these connectors as we've shown. Try connecting in the example that we saw, the email to a planner. If that's something that you cannot find in the template, start playing around with those connectors, and then once you gain deeper knowledge of the product, then look towards integrating all the different Microsoft services, or even looking at on-prem environments and cloud services from other providers. Some suggested next step. If you like what you saw, but you would like to know more, please contact your Microsoft partner. We'll get to your details in a second. Consider either a discovery workshop or the apps workshop. That helps you to gain knowledge of what's possible based on your own scenario that you might have in your company to really start that proof of concept. Now, if you would like to stay informed, we have a bunch of great blogs. We have the Microsoft 365 blog and the Teams blog. If you would like to stay updated on new features that are about to be released, whether it's from Power Automate or Teams or any Microsoft 365 service, please check out the roadmap, aka.ms/roadmap, or check out your own message center where you'll get the latest updates. Now, if you're missing a feature that you don't see on the either on your message center or on the roadmap, please submit them onto user voice. You can submit your own ideas. There are a bunch of ideas already out there, and people can actually vote on your idea. Now, all of our developers are looking at all of the entries in the user voice. So it's not that the most popular one gets worked on. It's basically every great idea the developers might pick up and start implementing in Teams. And I think that's cool if you came up with an idea and we're actually putting it into the product.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a cool thing. So if you want to watch this content of past sessions, so this is session number 6 out of 12, go to aka.ms/TAAP sessions 2, so Teams as a platform, TAAP sessions 2, and if you would like to subscribe for future sessions, go to aka.ms/tab webinars_en for English and _NL for Netherlands. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
If people would like to reach out, where can they find you?
Twitter, Schot at Twitter, or LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on the socials, so just reach out to me. And I'm pretty sure that if they reach out to you, you can redirect them to me.
Definitely. Thanks so much again. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the very sunny afternoon and take care. Bye-bye.